Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips. First thing is I'm going to offer a free healthcare workshop, How to Build a Profitable Practice. It'll be offered 3 times, December 19th, 28th, and January 5th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time via Zoom. And if you would like to join one of these sessions, send me an email at pampopper@msn.com with your choice of dates, and I will enroll you for this. We're going to talk about, if you want to set up an independent practice, how to do it, how do you bill for it, services to offer, staying out of trouble with all kinds of issues that can become problematic. And PMAs and, all kinds of things, right? So a lot of people still looking to leave institutional healthcare and set up their own practice. And so that's what we're going to talk about. We're shipping cookies all over the United States, $24.95 per dozen, any place in the continental United States, freight included. Wonderful gifts. We can ship our food products any place in the world, all of our dried mixes that you've heard me talk about for so long. Any of that stuff sound interesting to you, send me an email. All right, so what I want to talk about today is the mind-heart connection. There is a connection between mental and physical health. And I'll just start by saying the world's a pretty crazy place right now, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. And people are really stressed about all kinds of things, and the holidays generally can make it a little bit worse. And as I mentioned, there is a connection between our mental and psychological health and our physical health. And I found an interesting paper, recent paper from the American Heart Association. It's a position paper, and it states that, quote, "The mind, heart, and body are interconnected and interdependent." And there were several studies cited in this that I'll just share with you. So here's some excerpts. According to 2 meta-analyses of prospective studies that included over 100,000 people, stress was associated with a 27 to 40% increased risk for coronary artery disease. Social isolation and loneliness are associated with a 50% increased risk for cardiovascular events. A meta-analysis of 46 studies, including over 2 million adults, showed that anxiety is associated with a 40% increase in the risk of cardiovascular mortality. A meta-analysis of 30 studies that included almost 900,000 people showed that depression was associated with a 30% increased risk for myocardial infarction. Chronic anger and hostility increases the risk of cardiovascular events in healthy people by 19% and increase the risk of a recurrent event by 24% in people who already have cardiovascular disease. Studies show that in the 2 hours following an angry outburst, the risk increases for myocardial infarction, stroke, and ventricular arrhythmias. Anger is associated with increased platelet aggregation and elevated catecholamine levels, which can increase the risk of these types of events. Even just being pessimistic is a risk factor. One 11-year prospective study showed that pessimistic people have double the risk of coronary heart disease mortality when they're compared to people who scored the lowest on a pessimism rating scale. On the other hand, a meta-analysis including 15 observational studies with more than 220,000 subjects showed that optimism was associated with a 35% decreased risk in cardiovascular mortality and a 14% decreased risk for all-cause mortality. One of the reasons the researchers hypothesized is that optimistic people are more likely to engage in healthier behaviors such as regular physical activity, not smoking, eating better, better relationships, even better sleep quality. Even having a sense of purpose can matter. 10 prospective studies, including more than 300,000 people, show that those who have a greater sense of purpose have a 17% decrease in the risk for cardiovascular events and all-cause mortality. The bottom line, your attitude, your emotions, your connection to other people, or the lack of connection, happiness, all these things make a difference in your physical health. So this leads to a normal question. What do you do if you're a person who's angry or pessimistic or isolated or depressed? And I think the first thing is you have to want to do something about it sooner rather than later. Now is good. Small things can make a big difference. I mean, schedule coffee with a friend, call somebody you haven't talked to for a while and catch up, whether the person's local or not. Join something, start a book club, host a dinner party, take a class. It's a good way to meet like-minded people. You also might want to participate in a workshop that we have coming up called The Lost Art of Celebration. And this is being offered by our fabulous therapist, Kylia Rohrbaugh. It's a fundraiser with a voluntary contribution, but I'll just read you her description. Celebrations in the midst of trying times can seem out of place, inconsequential, unnerving, yet celebrations should be held especially during hard times, as has been demonstrated for centuries. This workshop will focus on the importance of celebrations, their existence throughout history, and the tools necessary to mentally and practically integrate celebrations into life, regardless of circumstance. And we're going to offer that on January 4th. So, and I'll just say Winston has joined us here and wants to say hello to everybody. And for all the people who have sent cards and emails, he loves getting emails and cards, and he's gotten flowers, he's gotten gifts. He's a very well-loved kitty, not just in this house, but apparently all over the world too. So anyway, but the bottom line is that you can do a lot to change your frame of mind. And it doesn't take much to change your frame of mind. Like I said, participate in our workshop. If you're interested in that, send me an email. I'll send back a description and instructions for how to register. I found that as I get back into more normal life after all of this disruption, those kinds of little things, coffee with friends, a shopping trip, just picking up the phone and calling somebody you haven't talked to for a while, these things make a huge difference. Adopt a pet. I have to tell you, I missed these last few months having a little friend around, and Winston keeps me laughing and keeps me busy also. He's a pretty active little guy. All right, well, that's all for today. As usual, pass this on to anybody who you think might enjoy watching it, and I'll be back to you tomorrow with more news.